Okay, let's jump in. We're going to be talking about one of the most remarkable turnarounds in European history, and it's all centered on one person, Maria Theresa.
She was born in Vienna, 1717, and then suddenly in 1740, she's in charge.
And she's only 23 years old, inheriting this vast, incredibly complicated, and frankly very weak Austrian empire.
And that's the key, right? The weakness. Because she faced a huge crisis from the moment she took the throne. In the 18th century, the law was pretty clear everywhere.
Only men could inherit.
Exactly. The Habsburg lands, this massive collection of territories, were supposed to go to a man. So for her to rule was, in the eyes of everyone else, basically illegal.
It was a total disaster waiting to happen. Her father, Emperor Charles VI, he saw this coming. He spent years trying to fix it.
Right, with that special law he created, the Pragmatic Sanction.
What was that? Exactly.
Think of it like a giant permission slip.
Yeah.
He went to every king and prince in Europe and said, hey, can you sign this piece of paper agreeing my daughter can be the heir?
And they signed it.
Oh, they signed it. But, not because they believed in it. They signed it because it was convenient or because they got something in return. It was flimsy.
So it wasn't a guarantee at all.
Not even close. The second her father died in 1740, that piece of paper was basically worthless.
And on top of that, she's young. Everyone thinks her claim is illegal, and the state treasury is completely empty.
Bone dry. The empire looked huge on a map, but it was hollow inside. She's also married to Francis Stephen of Lorraine and already pregnant with the first of her 16 kids.
16. Wow, so she's really just thrown into the deep end.
Completely. And her inexperience and the empty treasury, it was like a giant flashing invitation.
An invitation for who?
For the most ruthless king of the time, Frederick II of Prussia.
And he doesn't wait long, does he?
Not at all. Almost immediately after her father dies, Frederick launches this cold, calculated invasion of a really wealthy Austrian region called Silesia.
Why Silesia?
It was the jewel in the crown. Rich with mines, industry, resources. Taking it was a huge blow, and it was a complete betrayal.
So that's the move that just tears up the Pragmatic Sanction for good.
It's the spark. And it starts an 8-year-long war, the War of the Austrian Succession. Suddenly, every other country that signed the paper thinks, hey, I can grab a piece too.
France, Spain, Bavaria, they all pile on.
They do. You've got this young, unprepared woman facing an attack from the best army in Europe, which was Prussia's, and she's being betrayed on all sides. You'd think she'd just crumble.
But she doesn't.
No. This is where we see who she really is. She desperately needs an army, and the only people who can help are the Hungarian nobles, who were notoriously independent.
And often enemies of Vienna, right?
Mm-hmm. A huge challenge. But she travels there herself pregnant and gives this incredibly powerful speech. She doesn't demand their help. She asks for it. She appeals to their honor.
And it works.
It works. The Hungarian nobles stand up and shout, "Let us die for our king, Maria Theresa."
Our king.
Yeah, they use the male title to show just how loyal they were. That moment, that act of courage, it basically saved her rule. She proved she was a fighter.
But she still lost Silesia in the end.
She did. And that loss, as painful as it was, became the most important lesson of her life.
How so?
It showed her that the Habsburg military was, well, a total mess. It was ancient, outdated, and couldn't stand up to a professional army like Prussia's.
And that's what kicks off her first big project, reforming the military.
Exactly. Before her, Austria had this old system where you only hired soldiers after a war started.
That seems inefficient.
It was incredibly slow and unreliable. So she did something revolutionary for Austria. She created a permanent standing army.
Meaning soldiers who are paid and trained all year round, even in peacetime.
Right. Ready to go at a moment's notice. It was a massive investment.
And she didn't just want more soldiers, she wanted better ones. Better officers, too.
Yeah, that was key. She founded the Theresian Military Academy. This wasn't just some club for nobles. It was a serious school to train professional officers based on skill and merit, not just their family name.
So she's professionalizing the whole system.
Top to bottom. Standardization was her big thing. New laws for standard uniforms, standard weapons, and even regular food supplies.
That stuff matters. A well-fed army fights better.
1,000 times better.
Yeah.
Suddenly, Austria goes from being a pushover to a really respected military power.
But a big modern army like that costs a fortune. And you said the treasury was empty.
It was. And that's what led to her next, and maybe even riskier, set of reforms. overhauling the government and the economy,
Because the army needed a predictable, steady stream of money.
which the old system could never provide. The empire was all fragmented. Local nobles had all the power in their own regions and could just say no to the crown.
So how did she take on these super powerful elites?
Very cleverly, through bureaucracy. She started centralizing everything in Vienna. New government departments were created to handle finance and administration, slowly taking that power away from the local lords.
And then came the big one,
Taxes.
the really explosive change. Before her, the two most powerful groups, the nobility and the church, paid basically zero tax. They owned all the land and wealth, but contributed nothing to the state that protected them.
She saw that was completely unsustainable and unfair. So she passed new laws that required both the nobles and the church to start paying their share.
Wow. That's a huge political risk. How did she even make that work?
With data, she ordered a detailed survey of all the land in the empire.
A census of property.
Exactly.
Okay.
Officials went out and measured everything so they could calculate a fair tax based on what people actually owned. It made it really hard to argue against. She was building a modern government.
So she turns this loose collection of provinces into a single, unified state with Vienna at the center.
That's the key. She built a real monarchy with a reliable income, not one that had to beg its own nobles for support.
So she secured the military and the finances, but her reforms didn't stop there, did they?
No, not at all. She understood that a strong state needs more than just guns and money. It needs productive, healthy, and educated citizens.
Which brings us to probably her most famous reform, mandatory schooling.
In 1774, she passed a law requiring every single child, boy or girl, from ages 6 to 12 to go to school.
You have to remember, this is the 1700s. The idea of state-funded public school for everyone was almost unheard of.
It was radical, but for her, the logic was practical. She figured an educated population would be more productive, make better soldiers, and be easier to govern.
And she actually built the system to make it happen.
She did. New schools were built everywhere, even in small villages, so poor kids could attend. The government created standardized textbooks for things like reading and math.
And the teachers were trained, too. It wasn't just some random person.
It was the start of a real professional teaching class. It was a reform that changed society for generations.
And she also focused on the largest group of people in her empire, the farmers.
The peasants. They were stuck in a system called the robot.
The robot.
It was the amount of unpaid labor a peasant had to do for their landlord. It kept them poor and unable to get ahead.
So what did she do?
She couldn't just abolish it overnight. The nobles would have revolted. But she passed laws that limited how many days of forced labor they had to do.
Which gave them more time for their own crops.
Exactly. It boosted their own productivity and made the food supply more stable. She also pushed them to plant new crops, especially the potato.
Ah, the potato. A super crop.
It really was. It grew underground, so it was safe from bad weather or marching armies. It was a huge protection against famine.
It seems like she was thinking about every part of society, even public health.
She was obsessed with it. She hired one of the most famous doctors in Europe, Gerard van Swieten, as her personal advisor.
And he brought modern scientific ideas to medicine, right?
He did. He transformed the University of Vienna into a world-class medical school and helped build new hospitals that focused on, actual science instead of superstition.
And what about that story with smallpox?
Oh, that's one of the most amazing things. Smallpox was a huge killer. She became a huge supporter of inoculation, which was this early, kind of risky version of a vaccine.
People must have been terrified of it.
They were. So to prove it was safe, she had her own children inoculated first. It was a massive public health campaign led from the very top.
She even passed laws about keeping cities clean to stop infections from spreading. All of this must have had a real impact.
It did. Life expectancy actually started to go up.
Okay, so she's fixed the army, the government, education, farming, and healthcare. What about the overall economy?
That was the next piece. To pay for everything, she had to make the empire richer. She started by turning it into a real common market.
What does that mean?
She got rid of all the internal borders and taxes between her own provinces. Before, it was expensive to move goods from, say, Bohemia to Hungary. She made it free.
Which makes trade cheaper and faster.
Instantly. And she also encouraged local factories to start making luxury goods, glass, textiles, porcelain. So the empire would stop spending all its money buying those things from France.
Keep the wealth at home.
Keep it at home. And she built new roads and canals to move all those goods around more efficiently.
But even with all these incredible reforms, that one Kreis Silesia was still in Prussian hands.
It was. And that led to another massive conflict, the 7 Years' War in 1756.
This time she had allies, though. Big ones.
Yeah, she managed to ally with her old enemies, France and also Russia, to try and finally crush Frederick the Great.
But it didn't quite work out.
No. After 7 incredibly bloody and expensive years, the war ended, and she still didn't get Silesia back. But it wasn't a total loss.
How so?
Austria proved it could stand up to Prussia, the greatest military power in the world, and fight it to a standstill. It cemented Austria's place as a major power.
And while all this is going on, wars, reforms, she's also raising 16 children.
It's just mind-boggling. And her children weren't just a family. They were a tool of foreign policy.
Right, diplomacy by marriage.
She arranged their marriages meticulously to create powerful political alliances all across Europe.
The most famous example, of course, being her youngest daughter.
Marie Antoinette, who she married off to the future King of France, Louis XVI, creating this huge Franco-Austrian alliance.
And her eldest son, Joseph II, he was groomed to take over.
He ruled alongside her in her final years to ensure a smooth transition. Maria Theresa died in 1780 after ruling for exactly 40 years.
It's an incredible story. She inherited a bankrupt state that was falling apart, a state that by law wasn't even supposed to be hers.
And through just sheer force of will and brilliant reforms, she held it all together and rebuilt it from the ground up.
She's absolutely one of the most capable rulers in history. I mean, her central government, her professional army, the public school system, these things lasted for generations. They were the foundation of modern Austria.
It really is amazing.
Yeah.
She started with nothing, surrounded by enemies who were sure she would fail. And she completely overhauled an entire empire, from the army barracks to the village classroom. It just proves that determination and smart reforms can overcome even the most ancient traditions.
What really stands out, though, is the political skill. I mean, think about this. How do you convince an entire class of powerful nobles who believe their rights come from God that they suddenly have to pay taxes and give up their power to a central government in Vienna? That's a political achievement you almost never see. Good luck with your studies.